What's up, YouTube? Justin from Team Misplay here. Got Michael. We're going to be doing a quick discussion and breakdown of how to beat Chaos Dragons. We know YCS Dallas, Chaos Dragons took second place. YCS Chicago, they took third or fourth. And it's just a deck. It's another Konami structure deck. It started way back with Machina Mayhem with Machina Fortress, and has been steadily moving down the line with the fairies, with Dark Worlds,
and Chaos Dragons.
Now Chaos Dragons.
There was even Gravekeepers too.
Yeah, Gravekeepers.
Don't forget about Gravekeepers.
Gravekeepers got all that support out of the structure deck. But yeah, so Konami has a habit of creating structure decks that are ready to play tournament ready decks. And so now we're going to be talking about how to beat these decks, because with the strong showing that Dragons have had, it's not a one-hit wonder. It's not a deck that flew in under the radar at YCS Dallas.
I was wrong. I said it was one-hit wonder. I was wrong.
It's a deck that has the potential to, take away the third spot of the top 3 Tier 1 decks.
With Windups gone, it can move into that spot and hang out with Inzectors and Dino Rabbits.
Yeah,
if it wants to.
All right. So what Michael and I have done is we've taken a deck, we've taken a build, we've shuffled up all the cards. We're just going to show you some of the generic openings that they can have and how the plays can be made out. And then we're going to talk about cards that you can do the side deck or main deck to really hurt the deck and help your matchup.
So, and part of this is more just so that when you see their opening hands and you can kind of see their plays, you can hopefully you can kind of see what they have in their hands. So, depending on what they remove for, say, a Wyvern, you can kind of know what else is in their hand. So this is straight up Alex Reed's build, minus 3 cards we didn't have, we proxied in, and we didn't even draw any of them. But I mean, right away you can see, like, this is not that lethal of a hand. Like, I mean, they could charge into something really nice, but otherwise, like, this is... I mean, they have 2 Effect Veilers, a Mystic Tomato, and, a Lila, and, like, they have no protection, so just, there's not much they can do here outside,
if they charge and then they mill the 3 cards.
I mean, you have to see what the 3 cards are, so you've got a Plague, a Red Eyes, and a Raikou, which does them nothing. I mean, are they gonna start giving up cards out of their hand to get this back, to try and synchro into a monster that can get blown away? No.
At this point, though, the play that you could see being made here is setting a Mystic Tomato and searching for...
maybe a Lumina or something.
Yeah, setting a Mystic Tomato and going into Red Eyes, or going into Wyvern. Oh no, you can't do that. What's a double 4 dark? Probably like a Sangan, or
the Phantom of Chaos.
Or the Phantom of Chaos. But the deck does have its weak opens, and the weak opens can be a lot of smaller monsters or a lot of boss monsters with no way to pull it off.
I mean, it's just that kind of thing. And I mean, what's going to hurt this deck? I mean, you can see that their only play coming forward through there is going to be to somehow pull some chaos monsters coming through, and they're going to be relying on you to attack into their monsters and get their effects out with, setting Eclipse Wyverns, or setting the Mystic Tomatoes, or setting the Raikous. And so, if you have a way to, like, remove a face-down monster, like a Nomen across, that would be pretty clutch. Or, even just a Shield Crush, takes out the Raikou and the Tomato. And for people who are, who don't have the money, they're going to probably copy that Alex Reed build, which was a non-money build. It was Mystic Tomatoes, not Tour Guides. So... just kind of know that's coming. I mean, that hand had potential, don't get me wrong, but it would needed a couple of turns to set up, and if you're playing heroes or something, you're just going to be killing them with, something like a skill drain would be absolutely murderous. So, do it one more time just to kind of show you what's happening. They drew Future Fusion, but if
alright, and see this?
No, it's busted.
This is a busted hand, and this is a hand.
You're going to probably lose unless you went first and set MST or Solemn Warning. MST and Solemn Warning both stop the mill. Know that. Don't let them tell you otherwise. They activate. Just chain MST to the activation. It never hits the field. It goes away. They don't get their mill off. That's crucial. So Solemn Warning stops the actual activation of the card, not the summon of the 5-headed. So be aware of both. But otherwise, if that goes off, they're going to be their mills. If they are playing with the Light Swarms in there and they don't remove a JD, they have it in hand. Like, they're telling you they have it in hand, because otherwise they'd rather remove that, because based on what I saw on what we saw on YouTube when we went ahead and looked at people and their profiles and stuff. Dark Flare was the 5th target. This is what they want. Okay. This is what they want to send.
Typically, this is the setup for Future Fusion: is a Dark Flare, 2 Wyverns, a Darkness Metal, and a Light Pulsar. And the reason being is that the Wyverns will search out their big key boss monsters, and you can tell what boss monsters they have readily available in their hand depending upon what they choose to get with the Wyverns.
So the Judgment Dragon, see, and now what I was going to do, I was going to wait. The other one they like to remove the Dark Armed early because it's a dead draw if they don't have the setup, and they'd rather just add it off. They'd rather add whichever, remove the Wyvern that applies to whichever one is the more appropriate monster. But if you see them remove, say, a Red Eyes, then you know that they probably have this in their hand, or they don't have.
Or they have the Judgment Dragon on their hand, or vice versa, depending upon what their targets are for the Wyvern play.
So although Future Fusion sucks, and if they get it off, they're probably gonna win. It just happens that way because, I mean, from here, the play is gonna look something like. You can do this a couple different ways, actually.
I mean, the point of this is you have a Darkest Metal engraved.
Well, you can do this. This is the better play. You can go here. You can send these 2 to summon this one, right? And he's out on the field. These are all banished over here. This is your hand. That's the grave. I know this is sloppy, guys. I'm sorry. But trying to get this all on camera is tough. So, this is your removal pile. This is your hand. And you just put a Light Pulsar on field for basically no cost. Then you can remove these 2. And you can put them over here in the banish zone. You remove the Wyvern that corresponds with the Darkness Metal to summon here. Alright. So from here, you can then remove this one. Summon. Effect. Summon. And that will be their opening field based on the hand that looks like that. And they have an Availer if they're playing Inzectors to stop 1 turn push and then just try and just go nuts for game. Yes, this is good, but I mean, a DD Crow would have broken this play wide open. Or just something simple like that, or an Effect Failure makes this not nearly as potent if you can clear this field next turn, because they don't have that lock on. I mean, and then if they have another Light and Dark, yes, they can get back into Light Pulsar, but if they don't, they're going to struggle, and they tend to be starved for darks. So if you have removal, concentrate on your darks, because that's where the deck lacks, because they're going to be running triple Light Pulsar with 1 Dark Flare and 2 Red Eyes Darkness Metals, and then a lot of Lightsworn cards, and then maybe some Tomatoes here and there in the Sanguine, but they don't really want to discard those cards. They want to get the effects going, so they're going to be dark starved. Target their darks if you can. I mean, Chaos Sorcerers, whatever. But with that being said, we'll move on to some cards that are just really clutch on the side, and you may come up with some of your own ideas. What you need to be working on is it's going to be spot removal, spot banishing, not spot destruction, not Rykos, not Snowman Eaters, although they're both, if that's what you have, that's what you have. And it's not bad, but, you know, we're talking, what did we pick? We picked 6. Something along those lines. Both good. This makes, obviously, when you destroy the Light Pulsar and it goes to the grave, normally they get to special the Dark Monster, but, you know, then with timing, obviously, with the bottomless. And don't be afraid to destroy Light Pulsar if they don't have a level 5 or higher target in the grave. Just know that, you know, people are playing scared of Light Pulsar. Like, you don't have to if they don't have a level 5 or higher Dark in the grave to set it up, because they're not going to be able to get it back. The Dimensional Prison, obviously, remove whichever one's the biggest threat. A lot of times it's Darkness Metal, because if you remove the Darkness Metal when they have the lock on, they don't have another Dark and Grave. When that Pulsar dies, there's anything to bring back, and you've taken care of both, and taken care of the better effect monster of the 2. And these are, and they're not only good in this matchup, they're good in so many matchups. And you should have at least, I think you should have at least 1 copy, if not 2, of each in your side main somewhere fit in, unless you're playing Decree or something like that. And this obviously doesn't make sense, but because I mean, and not every deck can play some of the better side cards, but these should be playable in every deck, and that's why we picked those 2. If you can play it, play it. If you can't, it sucks, unfortunately. You know, Inzectors obviously can't play this match, or Dark Worlds can't play it, but, you know, if you're playing Heroes or some other rogue deck, Macrocosmos does its job. and you chain that to a solar recharge or something bad like that, or Charge of Light Brigade. And Charge of Light Brigade, the cost is to send the 3, so they'll have to mill the 3, even though if this is up before that, though, they can't actually activate the charge or the solar, because part of the condition of the card is to send to the grave, and this says it can't, so you can even give them some dead cards like that. They won't be able to send cards from their hand to the graveyard to summon Light Pulsars, because the cards will be removed. The effect won't go through. This is probably the single best card. Unfortunately, not every deck can use it, so that's why number 3. Card that most people probably don't know what it is. Karma Cut. It's one of my all-time favorites. Most people who know me know I love this card. And a lot of it has to do with it's really good late in the game. The cost is to discard a card, but you select a card on the field, and then you remove that card from play, and any card with the same name in their graveyard from play. So if they have a Light Pulsar up and one in the grave, you discard the card and both are banished, and if they don't really have a way to get them back, because Leviair doesn't summon level 6s, and the Wyvern's not going to be able to get the card that it didn't remove on its own. So just Karma Cut is good. I mean, if you have cards that you like pitching, or it's kind of similar a la Raigeki Break, but it does something a little bit different, and it's also good. This is also good in the Inzektor and the Dark World matchup for Graphas and Dragonflies and things like that. So it has its purposes. Kaiku, obviously, it's relative in this matchup. Heroes, Dark Worlds, graveyard based decks, and decks that like to remove their own cards on their own terms. Kaiku says no, it protects your grave at the same time. So obviously Kaiku's a card everyone's been looking into right now, and for good reason. And if you can keep it alive for a turn and punt them and take some of their good targets out of their grave that aren't Wyverns and pull their Darks, you're gonna starve them pretty quickly of resources, and you'll probably notice it when they are summoning a Light Sworn and milling 3, hoping to God that they mill 3 Darks so you can't get all 3 or something like that. And they do have big outs to this, but they won't be able to remove cards from their graveyard to make those outs, so they'll have to find a way to put a dragon on the field by either discarding or Monster Reborn or something like that. But this can slow them down for a little bit, especially if you can protect it. So Kaiku's good, and then Spirit Reaper's pretty clutch. They have a couple of outs. It's going to be Chaos Sorcerer, BLS, and a Judgment Dragon, but if you see any of those hit the grave off the mill, they're not in play. They can Synchro and try and use a Scrap Dragon effect or something like that, or to get around this, or Black Rose, but that's really not a play they like to do very often. So Spirit Reaper obviously has its uses, and if you just set this up and then they attack, with their Light Pulsar, Red Eyes Wall, and they hit this. They're not running Lances most of the time. Some of them might start because of the bottomless pickup, but Spirit Reaper in defense is pretty good. It'll buy you the turn usually, and if they've overextended thinking they're going to be able to push for game and you didn't have anything because you're playing some deck that doesn't set monsters and you have to set a monster and they run into Spirit Reaper, they're gonna and then you have a turn to come back. And I mean, one turn is sometimes because they're going to try and go off in one turn, and if they run into this in that one turn, you can poke them apart, or even just summoning this and attacking and poking at their hand and pulling the cards they really wanted in their hand to be able to maybe pitch or to summon from the removal.